Welcome to this one, friends. In this one, we're going to learn about summarizing information in more detail. So we'll take a look at aggregating functions. Before we do anything else, I'm going to use AdventureWorks. So use AdventureWorks here. Go. And I want to motivate what we do next. So first, let's just take a look at something inside one of the tables. So I'm going to type the following. I'm going to type select star from sales order detail. That's a table. And then I'm going to say where, for example, sales order detail equals, and I want to pick up just one of them so we understand the motivation for the next steps, okay? 43659. I'm focusing on just one order at first. Take a look, execute this. All right, let's take a look. So highlight everything, give it a go, and take a look at this. This is a single sales order. Well, first of all, you notice that the sales order ID repeats. That means it's good for grouping. Okay. Notice there's a thing called order quantity, and that varies. It's 1, it's 3, there's a 6, a 2, and a 4. So clearly, when you look at this, you can tell that the 6 is the max and the 1 is the min. You should be able to pick those out just by looking. And then further, notice another piece of information here. We've got the unit price that looks as shown here. And this also changes. So sometimes it's 2024, sometimes it's 5.70, and so on. So you should be able to find the average unit price also. And because this deals with money here, you should be able to display it formatted as currency, you see? And the code that we write, remember, we don't want to have to do this just for one sales order ID. There are many of them. So we're going to create code that will summarize the order quantity, find the max and the min, and the average unit price formatted as currency for the many different sales order IDs throughout the table. You're going to have to, it's like saying, summarize, this whole block of information right here, and then repeat that for the next sales order ID, put that aside, repeat that for the next sales order ID, put that aside, and so on. Now, as a small mathematical note, see these unit prices here, and you've got the order ID, sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 3. I'm showing you a still somewhat simplified result, okay? In real life, things are still a little more complicated. So when you find the unit price, I will just add it up and then divide by the number we have. That's it. In real life, again, you've got the order quantity. You have to deal with weighted averages and so on. For our purposes, though, that's not important. Okay, let's take a look. What is important is you can group the data by the ID, then you can find the max, the min, and the average unit price for that block of records. Repeat that for the next block of records. All right, so let's get going here. I'm going to type, first of all, as follows. I'm going to type, again, select, and this time I'm going to type sales order ID. And I'm putting that there because I'm grouping by it. And I'm going to say here from sales, that's sales order detail. All right, so you've got that. At the next stage, let's group by it. So type group by sales order ID, and that's good. So let's group by it. And it looks as shown here. So you've got groups now of sales orders. So we can summarize, for example, all the info that pertains to order 43659, summarize all the info that pertains to order 43660, and so on, you see? All right, at the next stage, because we are grouping, we can use aggregating functions like max, min, average, and so on. So I'm going to say now max order QTY as max QTY. So I can use this max aggregating function to find the maximum value because I'm grouping by the sales order ID. It's as if I showed you a block of records and I said to you, pick out the max, that's it. And then I show another block of records and I say, pick out the max. That's what it's doing, nothing else. And you've got the max quantity for sales order ID as 6 for the first one, 1 for the next one, 5 for the next one, 6 for the next one, and so on. At the next stage, I want you to pause the video and find the min order quantity value. How would you complete that code, even if you just do it mentally? Okay, I hope you've got something. So I'm going to say here minimum, simple. All right, type order quantity and alias it. So as min QTY as minimum quantity. Give this a go here. Execute. And there's the min. For many of these, as you can see, the min is 1. But for example, this one here, for this one, let me see, what is this? So for 4A323, the min is 2, and the max is only 3. So that can happen. All right, the next stage, let's add one more now. How would you find the average unit price? So pause the video and notice that maximum shortens into max. Minimum shortens into min. So what do you think average would shorten into? Make a reasonable guess. All right, so let's take a look. You might guess something like AVE, and then when you type it, notice that IntelliSense shows up with AVG. Then you hover your mouse over it, you see? So there's some sense to this. I'm going to say average. And I want to average out the unit price. I will say unit price. And I'm going to say here as average unit price. Now remember, in real life, there's a little more here that I would still have to do, but we'll leave it at this. I'm going to execute that, and I've got the average unit price. Now, because that is, after all, an amount of money of some kind, how can we display it formatted? So remember, we've talked about function nesting. We can apply that. I'm going to say format. And you can leave this line, AVG unit price. After it, you put a comma, then you put C, and then EN. And this time, I'm going to use the formatting for Great Britain. So I'm going to type GB, as shown here, and terminate that. Let me zoom in on this line and go over it in a little more detail because there's a lot happening. All right, so I'm going to type here. We've got to be understanding the details for everything. The reasons always count. So take a look at this. And I'm going to make it even bigger. There you go, 400%. Good. Take a look at this. So we've got the unit price column. You hit it with the average function. And notice this is placed within the format function. Make sure you've got the opening and closing braces, or in this particular case, parentheses. Grab the unit price, average it out, and then once you've got that happening, hit it with the format function, apply C for currency, and then EN-GB means format as Great Britain currency, meaning the pound symbol. That's what's used in Britain. All right, let me zoom back out here. Select, give it an execution. And now you've got the output also formatted as average unit price, nicely with the pound symbol. And the last bit is this one. Remember, this little thing that looks like an L with a little horizontal line, that's the pound symbol. What I want you to do is, again, pause the video and add one more line where you show how to sort by the average unit price from highest to lowest. Where do you put that? All right, let's take a look. So, as you imagine, that goes at the end. So I'm going to say order by and then average unit price and then DESC. And remember, we can use average unit price with the order by because it's the last clause that basically operates. By then, everything is available, including alias column names. So I can use an alias like average unit price with order by. Remember, if I try to use an alias column name, imagine if I take the sales order ID, right? And I type here as just, for the sake of simplicity, I just type ID. And I try to use that with group by, like that. Take a look. It says invalid column name. You can't use it. So when you think about it, this is suggesting again that the from will go first, logically speaking. The group by will go next, and that's why you can't use an alias column name. You've got to use an existing column name as an example. So in my particular case, again, I will say sales order ID. But because order by runs last, you can use alias column names. So let's give this an execution, hit execute. and it looks as shown here. Average unit price 996.24. And then if I scroll towards the bottom, I want to take a look here. All right, 1000 on the bottom, and then 996.24 here. All right, so you've got things sorted, but if you look through the data very carefully, right, you might say, okay, I've got order by, average unit price, and I scroll through it, average unit price. Take a look. Here in the middle, it's 3,578. On the bottom, it's 1,000. Up here, it's 996. So is this really sorting anything? It doesn't seem to be sorting very well for us. Okay, so just remove the DESC and try it again. And execute that. Give it a second here. All right, go through it. And again, these values, as you can see, seem to jump all over the place for the average unit price. So here, take the order by and just stick in the calculation. Again, I'm going to say AVG and then unit price. And let's run this one more time. And now, take a look. Go through this a little more carefully. Now it seems more reasonable, doesn't it? So I'm going to say DSC this time, descending. And again, it seems more reasonable. See that? Now it actually appears to be the highest 35728. And if I just fast scroll to the bottom, I got 1.37. Seems more reasonable. So it appears as though, because this average unit price is the average, that is true, but it's also been formatted. When you try to sort by it, it can cause the kind of errors that I showed you. Okay, I'm going to leave it here. Thank you so much, friends, and I'll see you in the next one.